Hey, Keto Nation, this is Jen. This is Keto Queen City. So I am coming to you from the Queen City, which is Charlotte, North Carolina. I often get asked, is keto right for me, or could keto be right for me? So we're going to talk about 13 reasons why I believe it probably is, but always check with your doctor. I am not a doctor. I'm a health coach. The first one, I know you think that I'm going to say is you want to lose weight. Losing weight is actually a byproduct of keto and most healthy eating plans. So weight loss is a given. I'm actually putting that at number 13 because that is going to happen if you do it right. So, but the first reason is, so sadly, it's estimated that 35% of the U.S. population is, the ones that aren't already diabetic is 35% are pre-diabetic or insulin resistant. Could this be you? So let's talk about some of the signs and symptoms that you could be insulin resistant. Even if you're not overweight, you can still be insulin resistant. And here's a few of the reasons, a few of the things that will help you suspect whether or not you are. Number one, obviously, is you are overweight and have a very hard time. You've hit a plateau. You just can't break through. Again, even if you're not really overweight, it's just that it's a major plateau, and anything you do, you can't bust through it. Number two, this is common in diabetics and pre-diabetics, but you're urinating frequently all the time, even especially after you eat a lot of carbs or sugar, and then you're just hungry again, and you can't. It's like an insatiable hunger. You might have tingling hands and feet. Or you might have cold hands and feet because your circulation is, your body, you've disrupted the process. Insulin is the biggest thing here we're talking about. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. Insulin is not bad. Our bodies are designed to, we need to store fat for those times back when, our ancestors, if they were starving, your body would need to store any excess calories as fat in the event that you had to go without food. The standard American diet, the SAD diet, we're just eating we're eating all the time. We're not even hungry. We're just eating all the time because we were told to eat 5 to 6 meals to keep your metabolism up. The problem is the body cannot burn fat in the presence of food. Okay, so it seems kind of simple, but at the same time, it's like, well, gosh, well, that's kind of like, well, should I never eat? Well, you can actually trick your body into getting into a fat burning state all the time, which is called ketosis. And we're going to do a whole nother video about how to get into ketosis, how to try it out, what it is. But when there's food in your system, your body has to burn through that. And insulin, so when you eat, you spike your insulin. Insulin is like the key that opens the cell door. Okay, so when you eat anything, fats don't have as much of an impact on insulin, healthy fats. But when you eat, you spike your insulin. Now keep in mind, whatever you eat when you're spiking your insulin, whatever else you eat when you're spiking your insulin, spiking insulin is going to be most quickly done through refined carbohydrates and sugars. And protein will spike your insulin as well, but again, it's what you're eating along with that insulin spike. So if you're eating a bunch of fat, even if it's healthy fat, if you're spiking, if you're eating, oh, good Lord, it's like it's the cardinal rule is never combine fat and carbs. And I had no idea prior to keto, but when you spike your insulin, whatever you ingest along with that meal at that time, your body is going to store. Okay. So, but you have to be, your body cannot burn fat in the presence of food. And when food is present, insulin typically is spiked. So we're going to talk about ways, there's tips and tricks on how to still eat healthy, not have to be fasting all the time, and your body will be in constant fat burning mode. Because there's one thing to note, ketosis means, or keto is ketosis, stands for ketosis. Ketosis is when your body has switched over from burning sugar and carbs for fuel, which are a kind of the diesel form of like the kind of the dirty, sometimes inefficient form of fuel. It switches from that because you are reducing your level of carbs. It doesn't have all that sugar and glucose to run on anymore. So it has no choice but to switch over to ketosis and ketone bodies. So your liver produces ketone bodies when there's no sugar and glucose to run, because that's kind of that low-hanging fruit. It's kind of easy to burn through that. But if you are constantly having sugars and carbs and things for your body to burn, it can never switch to burning your own fat. So when you get into ketosis, your body now you're training your body, and you can become fat adapted after a while, which is that's a miracle, which we'll do a video about. Your body now has to burn its own fat for fuel. So what happens is now your body produces the ketone bodies, which triggers lipolysis. Lipolysis is when fat is actually not solid. Fat is liquid in your body, and it's liquid in your fat cells. It triggers lipolysis, which opens, it's called, we're triggering glucagon, which is triggering your cells to open and release those fatty acids into the bloodstream so you can burn them off. It is the most amazing and clean, sustained energy that your body can run on. Once your body runs on ketones, it's always going to prefer ketones. And it's amazing the things that it'll do for you. We'll do a benefit video. The other thing that might signal to you that you're insulin resistant is if you have cold or tingling hands and feet, because that's a circulation issue, which is one of the symptoms. If you're tired all the time, or you sleep really long, you can't drag yourself out of bed, or you get crashes, this is another sign that you could very well be insulin resistant. Then blood work. If your blood work shows, if your doctor says, hey, we checked your A1C, or you're checking your blood sugars and they're elevated all the time, there's some other markers, but that's another way you can find out. And then another one is if you're just nutrient deficient and you feel like, you're taking zinc and vitamin C and all these things, but you're still getting sick, and immune system is really support, especially right now. But if you, or like acne, or your hair's kind of falling out, or something's going on, you got ridges in your nails, which there's different vitamin deficiencies that'll show up in your nails, and your skin's dry, or your collagen is low. That's going to be a big, because what happens is once your body, so insulin resistance, what this means, it probably should have clarified that, but the insulin resistance is where your body is so used to that blood sugar being high. In the beginning, it's kind of like you turn a fan on in the room. It's kind of noisy. And then after a while, you don't hear it anymore. Because what you're doing is you're just jamming so many sugars and carbs into your system all day. Every time you eat, you don't even realize it. But throughout the day, your body never has a chance to just take a breath and start to burn through your fat. But there's just insulin. So it's like mother death. And so the signal, your body will stop responding to that insulin, which means the sugar is just going to keep building up in your system. But it prevents, so now those cells, they need to be able to absorb the nutrients. They're not working properly. So you're not absorbing the zinc, you're not absorbing the vitamin C, vitamin A, which is huge for your skin, and then and B vitamins. So that's another way to know. So that's my number one, and I'm very passionate about it because I do have loved ones that have type 2 diabetes, and a very close person in my life is pre-diabetic. So I am passionate about getting the word out, trying to teach people how to change their habits. It may not be full-blown keto for certain people, but you can definitely control. I mean, I have seen people completely reverse type 2 diabetes and go the other way as a result of keto. It's amazing. Always, again, check with your doctor. Okay, number two is if you're just constantly, you might even be overweight, but you just crave sugar and carbs constantly. That's just sort of this normal process your body goes through. I mean, it is an addiction. I mean, you guys know my story. I mean, I had my addiction. I never had a sugar addiction, but let me tell you. But that's another sign. Number 3 reason that keto might be for you is if you just want more energy, like you're lethargic all the time, can't get out of bed. I could never get out of bed before noon. Like, it was impossible. And it just certain people especially respond really well to this. And I get up at 5 a.m. now, like I can't even sleep, and it's kind of annoying. But if you want more energy, keto, running your body on ketones it's the most sustained form of energy. I don't get hungry. I don't get sugar crashes. I can't even take naps, but I wish I could sometimes. So anyway, if you want more energy, again, it's like running on sugar is like the diesel fuel. It's dirty. It's a messy process, and it can pollute things. Whereas like electric vehicles are very clean, and you can Your body will always prefer ketones once it knows how to utilize them and burn your stored body fat. Big one for me, huge, especially with my addiction, was mental clarity and sort of like a control. And like, I'm very hyper. If you haven't noticed, I'm very spazzy. They've diagnosed me with ADHD, bipolar, you name it. And I am high intensity. I don't like to say hyper, I'll say high intensity. But if you just have sort of like this nervous energy, or you're just like, you're not focused, or you're taking, Adderall or all these things to try to stay focused, and you don't want to, try keto. I'm telling you, I don't take any medicines anymore. And I'm not recommending that you go off your medicine, but it's just I have optimized my body and my brain. That's the way I really feel. But it's going to help avoid brain fog. Carbohydrates and the things that your body has to do to process them is going to keep your body so busy doing all that. It doesn't have time to just really like fuel your brain. Number 5, if you're hangry all the time, sometimes I always like to say tangry. You're hungry and angry, you're tired and angry, there's all kinds of acronyms, but if you're hungry and angry and irritated, try keto. I'm going to help you through it. I promise you. Try it. Like I always tell people, try it for 13 days, try it for 13 weeks. I'm going to help you through. So subscribe to my channel and I promise we're going to have fun together and you're going to look better. Number 6, if you just need a better, like you want your performance to increase, but you might be a runner or, maybe you're a boxer or you're, whatever the sport might be. Ketosis. Some people think, oh, I got to have carbs. I'm a distance runner. There's actually studies that have now shown that, yes, there are certain things. Like when you're sprinting, you need glucose, you need fast-acting carbohydrates to get through a sprint. But I venture to say that all of us are not sprinting multiple times throughout the day. I mean, unless you work for Amazon right now, they are sprinting all over that warehouse. But so it will help your performance. I'm going to do videos about that as well. If you want to build muscle. So people think, oh, keto, I'm going to be eating like a bunch of fat and I need protein. And you are going to eat protein, but you're going to optimize the protein. You don't need as much protein as you think. It depends. And when you're over 40, there are some indications about adjusting the keto diet or your macros a little bit. But if you want to spare muscle, using intermittent fasting, which sounds terrible, and I promise you it's not, and it's transforming. But you will preserve muscle and optimize muscle, and you can stop spending so much money on all this protein because most of the time your body's not utilizing it, especially if you are insulin resistant and your body's not even utilizing it because your blood sugars are so high, you're wasting money. So we're going to talk about that. Number 8, if you have depression or anxiety, stress, addiction, obviously, because of the mental benefits and the mental clarity that comes from it, this is for you. Number 9, if you have hormone problems, if it's just starting menopause, women over 40, women over 50, men, when they get to a certain age, or even when they're younger, what happens is if your testosterone, it can be a testosterone estrogen balance. Men do have estrogen in their bodies. And when there's certain things that are very like cow's milk, a lot of dairy, it's very inflammatory. There's a lot of things that have a lot of extra hormones in them. And when you see, no antibiotics, nor hormones, more organic, I used to sort of roll my eyes, but now I understand why. It's not natural, especially for men to have those hormones. You're pumping these cows and these animals to produce more milk, and which is a female thing. So they're ingesting milk that has hormones in it, and there's too much estrogen floating around their body. And men, the excess estrogen is going to show up in more like the fat around the man boobs, if you want to call them. So if you have hormone problems or think you might, this could be just what you need. Number 10, there's something called autophagy, and this happens when you combine keto and intermittent fasting. Please know intermittent fasting does not mean you're fasting all the time and you're hungry all the time. Quite the opposite. It's more of a time-restricted eating window. So that way you're giving your body time to rest and you're not constantly shouting, the insulin's not constantly shouting. You're giving your body a chance to rest. When you do that, when you get to a certain period of time, so example, you might have an 8-hour eating window. Let's say you love more eating in the morning more so than the evening, whatever. So, your first meal is at 8 a.m. and then you would go till 4 p.m. Your last meal would be at 4. You now have 16 hours until your next meal. Most of it 8 hours, more than likely, you're going to be sleeping. Hopefully you're sleeping 8 hours. If not, we'll talk about that too. But so you have 16 hours where you just don't ingest anything other than black coffee, green tea, and some electrolytes. 16 hours of fat burning every day. Or you can do like more like a, twice a week, do a 1-day fast. But we're going to talk about that. That really kicked it up a notch for me. But what happens is when you fast for a certain period of time, if you do like a 24-hour fast, maybe once or a week or once every other week, something magical happens called autophagy, and that's where your healthy cells, you get a spike in human growth hormone, which you need for anti-aging, collagen, and muscle building and muscle sparing. There's something called autophagy where your good healthy cells, because you're in that fasting mode, so they're trying to like feed themselves. So what they do is they will break up and recycle all the bad damaged cells that your body, after a while, your body kind of sloughs off these damaged cell parts. It recycles them and uses them. So you're like turning over your cells all the time. My skin, you guys, I did, when I started doing keto and intermittent fasting, my skin I'm 45, and I damaged my skin for 13 years of just, not treating myself well with addiction. And my skin is so much better. And even like my eyes, like there's more of a glow in my eyes. And some of it's from being sober, but it's not just that, I promise. So autophagy, that also will create longevity because of the spike in human growth hormone. Number 11, if you're in constant pain, you'll hear of gluten-free diets. If you have a lot of sugar and gluten, wheat, gluten, dairy, don't be scared. We're going to talk about dairy and how to help eliminate some of it. It's not all bad, but anyway, inflammatory eating is what causes pain. Pain is caused by inflammation. I used to, I'd always, when I wake up in the morning, I was achy here and there. I always used to have a problem in my left knee and with certain exercises. And that's just because it's inflammation. Inflammation is where your body's constantly like, I'm being attacked by something. And in this case, it's your diet. So it helps tremendously with people that have constant pain. Number 12 is if you are at risk of cancer, pre-cancer, or just you want to prevent cancer, did you know that sugar feeds cancer or cancer cells? Cancer cells feed on sugar. In the absence of sugar and carbohydrates, there's a huge likelihood and huge incidence of cell death, a cancer cell death, because it needs sugar to survive. And in the presence of ketones, I always like to say it's like your cancer cells like, I'm melting, but and there's more involved with that, but it's huge in the prevention of cancer and helping stave off cancer if you're in cancer treatment, chemo treatment. Number 13 was the one I told you was a no-brainer to lose weight, feel better, body composition. I'm telling you guys, even if you're not, you're like, keto, because people will lose a tremendous amount of weight on keto and keep it off. There's a 75% retention rate to people maintaining this diet when it's done properly. We're going to do a video about dirty keto, what is dirty keto and how to avoid it. But you're going to lose weight. You guys, I want to inspire you to try it. Again, if it's something you're interested in doing, I am doing Zoom consultations with people just to kind of get a feel, give them some ideas, and please subscribe to the channel or like, share, do whatever you think. If you found value in this, I really appreciate it. And just remember, hope, love, peace, and transformation to the willing. Thanks for watching.